Thursday, April 24th, here on the Just Baseball Show. That's Aram Layden. I am Peter Apple. And today, one surprising player so far for each MLB team. I collected my list from the American League. Aram did his from the National League. So we'll go through every team and talk about the most surprising player so far. And then, of course, I have my last word. And it's all brought to us by the sportsbook born in Vegas, which is BetMGM. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBaseball. Why? You get a first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. I'm really excited for this episode, Arm, but I'm actually kind of excited for my last word because I get to go back into my history corner. But for the meantime, we'll talk about baseball, I guess.
Yeah. More history on the way.
More history on the way. I'm
Hell yeah.
telling you. It's going to be fun. So without further ado, I think we should just get straight into it. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we'll start in the American League with the New York Yankees, and the most surprising player so far on the Yankees is Ben Rice. Of course, it's Ben Rice. He's hitting close to 300 with an OPS over 1,000. With a 65% hard hit rate, he is hitting the ball as hard as anybody in Major League Baseball, and we like to look at, a WOBA and xWOBA type equation. You can look at the xWOBA, and if it's higher than the WOBA, you might say this guy's getting a little bit unlucky. It's not a perfect science, but it is a good equation to look at. Based on his batted ball quality so far, Aram, Ben Rice is getting unlucky with an OPS over 1,000. And I think this is a good start to this exercise to let everybody know. We thought, or at least I thought, and I think you would agree, and so did Jack, that we thought Ben Rice was going to be a good player. We didn't think he'd be this good. We didn't think he'd be sixth in baseball in WRC plus and taking the baseball world by storm, the 26-year-old left-handed bat. We didn't think that. So that's why he's the most surprising player on the Yankees so far.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy that I think all of us were kind of expecting, and we talked about like being someone who can at least carry the offensive burden that would come with playing first base, especially given that it was a position that in DH slash first base. I know they got Goldschmidt, but like it was a position that they weren't getting a ton of slug from. And just you're looking at the void of potentially Stanton once he went down. It seemed like one of those situations where, like, pretty quickly you looked at them and said he could give you regular season Stanton production, maybe even top that a little bit. But I don't think anybody was expecting him to put batted ball data up and consistently just barrel baseballs on par with some of the best hitters in the major leagues. And that's where I go back to the conversation that we had about the fact that his development has just been totally stifled, right? This is a guy that barely played college baseball because he was in the Ivy League where they punted 2 seasons, and then just was very focused in the beginning of his pro career of like just learning how to catch. So being able to just focus on hitting and lean into raking, and just a guy that's, I think, a lot more powerful than anybody had given him credit for. This is a legit power bat. And if I don't think he's going to maintain it at this level, but very clearly, like, this is a solid power option that I don't think is going to go away. It'll come back to earth a little bit, but he's clearly a really, really solid piece that's only getting better as he gets more reps.
I find it interesting that Boone's been leading him off a lot, getting him as many ABs as possible. And it's funny, right, too, because the second most surprising guy on the Yankees is Paul Goldschmidt. The fact that he's hitting like 350 so far, he's got a WRC plus at 161. So two of the surprising Yankees are sharing a position, and it'll be interesting to see if Paul Goldschmidt can keep it up or Ben Rice keeps it up, and who ends up really being the stable first baseman, even though the Yankees are working both into their lineup, especially with Giancarlo Stanton still on the shelf. But when he comes back, what are the Yankees going to do? First base and DH. They'll probably mix and match. Let's move over to the Boston Red Sox. Now, there's not a lot of surprising players on the Red Sox at this point of the season. And one guy who I was excited about, and I thought he could be a legit bullpen arm, but I didn't realize he would be this good so early, and that is Garrett Whitlock in their bullpen. 14 and 2/3, 19 strikeouts, pitched to a 1.84 ERA. Now, Garrett Whitlock has worked back and forth between the rotation and the bullpen. Hasn't exactly worked in the rotation, and he's also been dealt a litany of injuries. That's kind of been the reason why Garrett Whitlock hasn't really taken that next step, right? And then last year, he pitches really well, but he gets hurt again, right? He only threw about 19 innings. But this year, I mean, the strikeout rate is crazy. There's a little tweak in his pitch mix that I thought he's just looked fantastic there on the mound. And the Red Sox need a reliever of his caliber in the bullpen. Like Chapman is one thing. Justin Slayton has looked awesome. You
Mhm.
hope Leon Hendricks can regain what he had with the Chicago White Sox, but the Red Sox need a guy back there. And for Garrett Whitlock, not only to be a lockdown guy potentially in the eighth inning, but he can also go multiple innings for you. I think he is so important for this Red Sox bullpen. And the fact is that the strikeout rate is way up to start. That's surprising to me that he's been this good this early.
Yeah, it's just health because when we saw Whitlock be a really solid pitcher, no matter what the role was, his velocity was more in the mid 90s, and the last couple like stints that we've seen him in 2023 it was about 94, and in 2024 in the limited action it was about 93.5. This year he's averaging 95.6 on that sinker, and when it's a higher velocity with the extension that he gets, like guys are going to swing over the top of that a lot more, and it's going to give you that effect with the slider where you're going to speed him up a little bit and get the slider working the opposite way, and that's been really beneficial for him, where that's been a wipeout pitch, but also still mixing in the changeup. He's got a sweeper as well. Like it's really fascinating because you have a reliever here who kind of has a starting pitcher's arsenal, so as you mentioned can kind of mix and match in different roles. But with him, like I think the ability side of things, it's not shocking because we've seen him be great in the past, but it's been a few years since he's really been healthy, and it's easy to forget just how good this guy was, back in 2022 when he was healthy.
And Romy Gonzalez could be another option. He's been raking, but he's more of a bench bat platoon guy. We'll see if it lasts. That would technically be surprising to me, but I wanted to highlight Garrett Whitlock just because of his importance to the Red Sox. Let's move over to the Toronto Blue Jays. I think the answer, for me at least, has to be George Springer. Right at the end of last season, post All-Star break, this guy slashed 213, 295, 366. And I said to myself, going into next year, the 35-year-old George Springer is going to not only not be any good, but genuinely hurt the Blue Jays sitting in the middle of the lineup or even at the top of the lineup, just draining all of their production. But instead, he has been arguably their most productive hitter through his first 78 plate appearances with an OPS at 946 and the legs. That's another reason why I was surprised with George Springer. How about 4 steals so far on top of the 2 home runs, on top of hitting close to 340? You expected Bichette to bounce back to what levels? Not sure. You expect Santander to be great. You expect Vladdy to play at an MVP level. But who's going to be the fourth bat that steps up? I did not think it
No,
was going to be George Springer. I thought it was going to be one of the young guys, but it's been 35-year-old George Springer. It's a surprise to me.
shocking to me because, of course, all the talent in the world, but we're several years removed from him really being a major factor. And injuries as well with him, but also just the fact that it just seems like he was naturally slowing down. And I hope that he can keep this rolling through the duration of the season. But I mean, he's already accumulated 0.7 F WAR in 22 games, which I mean, that's more than halfway to last year's total and just about halfway to his 2023 total. So already on track to have his best season as a Blue Jay, maybe ever, but definitely since 2022. And I just wonder if sometimes guys they're starting to slow down, but they don't really adapt maybe their offseason preparation, things like that. Maybe something clicked for George Springer this offseason where he changed how he prepared for the year, or maybe there was a nagging injury over the last couple of seasons that finally got right. I'm hoping that's the case because I mean this is a guy that is so fun to watch, and the Blue Jays are paying a lot of money still, and I was almost wondering if he'd even be worth the roster spot if he continued to struggle to the degree that he was at points last year. Not only is he worth the roster spot, he's been one of their best hitters, so that's been really fun to see, and I hope he can kind of keep building on that. And I think mixing him into the DH spot and putting him in right, and he's still playing center, but not as much. I think that's going to help him as well.
Also, shout out Tyler Heineman. I see you with that 272 WRC plus there on the bench, but again, not much of a sample, and I think it's more surprising that George Springer has been this good this early for this long to start the season. All right, let's move over to the Baltimore Orioles. Surprising for me even though this player, he put up an 831 OPS in the second half, looked like a rejuvenated guy, but still going into his age 30 season, we got back-to-back seasons of an OPS in the 700 to 720 range. And I'm thinking to myself, with the youth, with all the guys coming up, maybe Cedric Mullins could be out of a job soon, or potentially he could get traded. But to start the season, he's been the fourth best hitter in Major League Baseball. Cedric Mullins is slashing 290, 443 OBP. Army slugging over 600 with 6 home runs while playing some pretty good defense in center field as he normally does. Crazy. Like another
I,
kind of similar to Springer. I was like, yeah, that was a nice second half. Maybe you can parlay it into a 750 OPS this season. And who knows? Maybe he settles back down there. But to start it this way, this is huge for the Orioles when we were just shit talking the pitching. The
yeah.
offense is still prolific. And right now it's led by frickin' Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, and they needed him. I mean, I'd imagine things would be a lot tougher right now if he wasn't performing the way that he is, especially with Gunnar missing a little bit of time out of the gate and just needed to get going a little bit. But when we talked to Cam Meisner yesterday, he had talked about working out at the same facility as Mullins and how impressive he was going through these drills and just the things that he can do in the batter's box, but also maybe a guy that adjusted some things slightly mechanically. And I think we're seeing the results. I mean, this is a guy that has had some great seasons in the past, and it's not like he's 35 like Springer, he's 30. So this is a great spot for him. And a year here where he could end up making himself a lot more money, moving forward if he has a nice season. I mean, makes sense to maybe experiment with some things and try to make some subtle adjustments going into the season. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, the contact rates are great. He's not chasing at all, and he's elevating as much as he ever has in his career, especially to the pull side. So if he's doing that, like clearly that's allowing him to unlock more power in games, and then he's going to do all the other things well. So this is huge for the Orioles and huge for Mullins in his pockets potentially going into next year and beyond.
I'm glad you brought that up because he's not like Springer in the sense of he's 35 years old and is in the twilight zone of his career. I don't think that's how the term is supposed to be used, but later parts of his career. Sergeant Mullins is 30 years old. He still has some good seasons under his belt, and maybe this is it, which he can parlay into a free agency decision, maybe a nice little package for him this offseason. All right, let's move over to the Tampa Bay Rays. And my surprise is the guy that we just interviewed, Cameron Meisner, the outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. You guys talked to him yesterday. I thought it was an awesome conversation. You could go check that out. Again, a reminder that we're doing 4 days a week here on the Just Baseball Show, and the fifth day is a Wednesday, and it's a flex day. So if we get an interview, and Cam Meisner is our first interview of this regular season, so go check that out. And the guy is raking. That's why we wanted to talk to him. He's hitting 352, 393 on base percentage with a slugging percentage near 650, which gives him an OPS over 1,000 with 3 home runs so far. Just a dynamic athlete with a sweet, sweet swing, putting it all together after grinding through the minor leagues. Great story, and he just rakes. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the bottom line with a guy like Cam Meisner right now.
He specifically dove into like some of the mechanical adjustments that he made. And I think it's very clear when you compare the swing from 2024 to 2025 and just how much that has allowed him to just have better coverage of the entire strike zone, be on time more consistently. And I mean, the results that have just been evident from that, even though it's a small sample, like this is a guy that had a great spring as well. When you have the tangible shift in mechanics where the way he was hitting before, I think a lot of guys would have struggled to even make that work in AAA, but he is 6'4", 225 and a plus athlete. So he was able to survive with that. But now we're seeing him, I think, maximize his abilities here. And this is somebody that was optioned to AAA to start the year. And then with injuries, like got an opportunity to play before he even actually played a game in AAA Durham. So it was kind of a back and forth to start the year. And then for him to just get up to the bigs and hit the ground running the way that he has, it's really impressive. And he's a guy that can play good defense at all 3 spots. He's going to steal some bags for you too. This is a really, really important piece now for the Rays, who are trying to piece together the offense. They've got a couple solid bats, but you need some more players to kind of stand out and maybe exceed expectations. And Meisner's been exactly that.
So I asked you, I actually texted you before when we were creating this list, and I said, who is a bigger surprise to you, Cam Meisner or Jake Mangum? And of course, you can go over to Jonathan Aranda as well, who has been the best of the bunch. But Jonathan Aranda has been a top prospect, and all he has done in the minor leagues is pillage baseballs. So it's surprising to see that he's one of the best hitters in the league, but it's not surprising to see that he's finding success on the offensive side. With Meisner and Mangum, it's pretty surprising to
Yeah.
me, but I wanted to ask which was more to you, and you went with Meisner.
I went with Meisner just because of the shift in swing and miss, right? Like guys can get up to the bigs and get hot, and like that's what Mangum's doing. And Mangum's bat to ball wise is incredible. I think he's the all time SEC hit leader. He's hit 300 like at every single level in the minor leagues. He's just a hitter. So like those guys can get up and spray the ball and play great defense, and that's what Mangum's doing. It's still incredibly impressive, and I think very surprising. But when you see the shift in identity from a Cameron Meisner, where he's cutting his strikeout rate from AAA to the big leagues in half. I mean that has to be one of the most surprising things I think any hitter's done this season.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move over to the American League Central, and I'll start with my guy. So, Guardians fans, I'm sure you'd all have your opinions on between either one of these guys, but the one guy that is a little bit more surprising to me is Gabriel Arias. The other one is Logan Allen. Logan Allen has a 2.10 ERA. The thing is, I've seen good stretches from Logan Allen before. I think it's a little bit more rare to see Gabriel Arias doing what he's doing right now with an OPS over 800, slashing 270, 321, 486 with 4 home runs. I always kind of felt, and again, this is my opinion, that Gabriel Arias wasn't much of a ball player, wasn't much of a help for Cleveland. I know that sounds like a dick thing to say, but that's what I saw, right? I saw a guy who can play a couple positions. He's the soft side of the platoon. Maybe he could make an impact, but the Guardians had so many dynamic players that I thought, where is this guy even going to fit in? But they're going to need Logan Allen, and he can flash some good stuff. But with Arias here, playing a bunch of different positions and playing them well, and hitting the ball as hard as he is, just being a above average player right now, that is more surprising to me than Logan Allen putting together 4 good starts. But I think both answer the question of the most surprising player on the Guardians to start.
Yeah, I would say it's more surprising. I've also been a little bit of a Logan Allen truther. I know Jack is not as much, but you've seen him succeed. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
big league level is a deceptive lefty, and those deceptive lefties can put together 4 good starts. Whereas
Yeah.
it's a little bit harder to fake it as a hitter, even through 22 games. And I did really like Arias as a prospect too at points, but there was always some concern about the swing and miss and the approach, and the glove was always the asset there, and it still is, but to see him just hitting the ball as hard as he is now, like as you mentioned, that's going to make the swing and miss a little bit more palatable. Like he is drilling baseball, so it's been fun to see. And I don't know how much confidence I have in it fully sustaining, but they don't need him to be an everyday player. He could be a really solid utility piece for them as they get all of their guys up and healthy and ready to go. But I would say it's definitely been a surprise to see Arias doing what he's doing so far this year.
Let's move over to the Tigers. And the Tigers is interesting because I think the easy answer is Spencer Torkelson. That's what I wrote down. Because Spencer Torkelson has been incredible. He's got an OPS at 944. He's got 7 home runs already. He's slugging close to 600. And this is off the backs of a season with a 669 OPS. And definitely surprising to all of us. We've talked about it. My take on the Tigers might end up being wrong because I didn't believe in the offense, and Spencer Torkelson is a big reason why this offense is going. It's hard to factor in Torque after a couple of down seasons into an offense that will succeed. But is Zach McKinstry more the answer? Zach McKinstry's been awesome, slashing 314, 424, 471 for an 895 OPS. He's another guy with OPSs below 6 or around 600. And at least I thought that, if someone were to break out, wouldn't you think it was Torque more than McKinstry? So I have both of those answers to you. You pick. Who do you think's been more surprising between Torque and Zach McKinstry?
I it's tough because like I think what Torque is doing right now is like kind of sustainable,
Yeah.
whereas McKinstry might just be a little hot and
Yes.
then might just slow down. So like I think it's more shocking to me that Torque is turning himself into quickly like one of the more exciting power bats all of a sudden when he was a guy that I thought we were talking about like change of scenery, flip him for some random arm and just go from there. Like McKinstry's hot 22 games, but he's been in the show for a while. Like guys will do that. I think it's very surprising. And I think the biggest shift for him is he's walking a ton, but I don't know. There's something about the idea that Torque has 7 home runs already this year
Yeah.
and is just destroying baseballs the way that he is. That I think that's got to be the number one answer for me, just because I really was running out of patience there. I don't know if I really was very optimistic anymore in regards to Torque.
I think you're right. We'll go with Spencer Torkelson as the most surprising player for the Detroit Tigers so far. Moving over to the Kansas City Royals. Not a ton of surprises on the Royals, but even as a guy who picked Chris Bubich as one of my breakout arms this year, I did not expect him to get off to this type of start. A 1.45 ERA through 5 starts. He's got more strikeouts than innings with a whip at 1.06. This stuff looks really, really good. He has just been annihilating lineups every single time he goes up against basically anybody. Like you saw that he dominated the Brewers. We're talking about how good the Orioles offense is. 6 2/3, 4 hits, 0 earned runs. Went up against the Guardians, another good lineup. 6 innings of 2 earned runs. Went up against the Yankees, the best lineup he's faced. Still was pretty good. 5 1/3, 3 earned, 6 Ks. And then, of course, he completely obliterated the Colorado Rockies. 7 innings, shutout with 6 hits. So he has also had a tough schedule in front of him. And outside of the Yankees, where he was still solid, he's just gone through all of them with relative ease. I thought Bubich would be a great arm this year. I didn't think he'd be the top 5 in the American League in Cy Young voting right now, though.
It's been really fun to watch. I mean, and I'm buying it too. I mean, you look at the release characteristics and the carry that he gets. I mean, it's funky. He pounds the strike zone and he's getting plus vert, and I would say close to plus vert. So it's gonna keep working. Like this is a guy that I think is gonna be a solid, reliable arm for them. And we saw even at the end of last year where I think he comes back from TJ, and they're a little careful with him, so they're mostly using him in relief. But you saw him be very effective in that relief role. So you're like, okay, this guy's going to be able to miss bats. And even before he went down with TJ, like there were some flashes where you could see the swing and miss stuff. But seeing him make 93, 92 so effective with the characteristics and command, like it has been a really nice surprise, especially just coming off of TJ and really being in more of a bullpen role last year to be as consistently good as he has been out of the gate as a starter.
Absolutely. All right, let's move over to the Minnesota Twins. This is tough because they've been terrible. And if I said that Harrison Bader was leading the team in WRC Plus here as we're recording on Wednesday, April 23rd, the Twins would say, like if I told them that before the season started, that on April 23rd, Harrison Bader would be leading the team in WRC Plus, they would say, well, the season's probably going horribly, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you'd be right. You'd be right to think that. The season is going horribly, and Harrison Bader leads the team in WRC Plus. I mean, none of the pitchers have been any good. Pablo Lopez is on the shelf. The only pitcher that has been good is David Festa, and I think he's got 1 start under his
Yeah.
belt. Griffin Jacks has an ERA at 10. I mean, it's been horrible all around. So it is surprising to me that Harrison Bader leads this team on offense. I think Byron Buxton has a slightly better OPS, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's 111 WRC plus. The fact that he's leading the team with that is pretty crazy. And like this is another one of those instances. Like this is a vet that could have a nice 20 game stretch, so it's
Yeah.
not like jaw drop shocking. But who else is going to fit this criteria on the Twins? It's got to be Bader so far, and it's also just more the fact that like he's been arguably their best hitter if you look at the statistics. So yeah, pretty absurd and a bit of an indictment on the Twins. I'd say more than like a good sign for Bader, but I will say it does look like at the very least he was a nice pickup for them.
Yeah. Let's move over to the Chicago White Sox. Another team where it's hard to find a lot of surprises. I am pretty surprised that Benintendi is hitting at all. That's awesome. But the guy who I think actually does fit the bill here and has been very effective is Shane Smith. Shane Smith has a 2.82 ERA. The strikeouts haven't necessarily been there for him, but the run prevention has been. And a big reason why is his breaking balls and off speed pitches have just been extremely effective. Right, and his fastball is performing well, but the changeup is just awesome. It's got a 36% whiff rate. It drops off the table. The slider, opponents are only hitting 158 against the pitch. He's just been really, really good. And when I watch Shane Smith, I'm watching for the secondary offerings. I think he's got a really good mix to go off of his four seam fastball, which is performing well so far. We'll see if that continues, but I think the secondary offerings are real, and he's been a fun pitcher to watch.
Yeah, I mean, a Rule 5 pick that's having success as a starter through 4 starts is always going to be, a pleasant surprise. So I think he's the obvious one here. You could talk Benintendi, but at a certain point, it's like this is another guy that you could have a 756 OPS
Yeah.
through 20 games. I don't think that's utterly shocking or anything like that. And if Caro gets a little bit more runway, Edgar Caro has been great out of the gate. Like that could be a candidate, but in terms of guys who have been available and have played since opening day, it's definitely got to be Shane Smith, I think, on the White Sox side.
So before we move on to the American League West, I again want to shout out our Discord because I am having so much fun in that thing. I know we've talked about it a bunch, but if anybody listening is interested in joining, the link is in the episode description and you're getting everything from us. We got an MLB channel that is going off every second of the day. We're talking about everything that happens with all of the games. My betting channel, you get my picks as soon as I place them. Also, shout out you, Aram. Ellie De La Cruz, that stolen base. Arm dropped
Yeah.
that in the betting channel on the Discord, smacked Ellie, of course, stole a base off Edward Cabrera because he can't hold runners. That was a perfect play. He's dropping in. Our guy Colby's dropping in. We have another guy, Keith, giving play. So the betting part of the Discord is live. Your side of the prospects. I mean, every single time I go in there, you guys are talking about someone new. I'm getting tagged being like, Peter, are you paying attention to this Yankee prospect? That stuff has been phenomenal. All the top prospect lists get dropped in there first, where Arm's doing consistent Q&As. I think I need to sell my Dustin Harris cards.
Yeah,
So
it might be time. It might
guess
be
what I'm going to
time.
do? I'm going to go into the trading card section of the Discord and ask all of the different people who are good in these type of markets, what should I do with each individual card? The fantasy chat is popping off constantly. The college baseball, we're getting not really that close to the draft, but they continue to update everybody, and the college baseball season is in full swing. So it's just $10 a month to join. I went out and got some lunch. It was $15 for my sandwich. So we think that $10 is a pretty affordable price to come in per month. And of course, the season and 6 month packages are discounted as well. For anybody who is interested in joining, you can find the link in the episode description. What's been your favorite part of the Discord so far?
The breaks have been fun too. I would say answering like prospect questions and like when I'm working on prospect lists, like just being able to do the stream of consciousness thing where like if I see a crazy play that I don't want to watch a defensive video on a player, like I just did this with uh Franklin Arias of the Red Sox org, like crazy backhand play. I sent it in there. I was like, holy crap, look at this. And we're just talking about like what I look for in shortstop defense and things like that. So that part's been really fun. And then we're doing a break, another like big break on Friday, I think, and being able to do that like in the Discord and pull cards for people and stuff like that has been really fun as well.
So make sure, if you're interested, the link is in the episode description to join the best baseball group chat in the world. All right, let's get back to the exercise. Most surprising player on every single team. Astros is tough. Not many surprises. It's good to see Cam Smith hit the ball a little bit better lately, but I wouldn't say that's a surprise. I expect Cam Smith to be good. So, one player that was included in the Cam Smith trade, of course, it's the Kyle Tucker trade, but Cam Smith and Isak Bredes were traded over to the Astros. Hayden Wesneski, he was a throw in, right? He was not
Yeah.
one of the main parts. I'm sure even when Astros fans made the trade, they were like, yes, we're getting a top prospect, a guy to build around, but we're also getting a solid guy who can be an all star. And hopefully, Hayden Wesneski is something for us. I think that was the general attitude around the trade for Astros fans. Wesneski has been great. 3.91 ERA. He's got 25 strikeouts in 23 innings. He's also coming off a really, really good outing against the Angels. I know his last outing was against the Padres. Again, a great offense where he allowed just 2 runs through 5 innings. The strikeout stuff has been there. right? He's not a guy who's going to keep the ball on the ground consistently, but he is going to strike you out. And the ability to limit the walks as well has been impressive. Just a 4.4% walk rate. That's a career low through his first couple of starts. With a strikeout rate at 28%, that's a career high. So to get a valuable starter on top of this deal, I think is the most surprising part of the Astros so far.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him last year, he was kind of like an up-down arm that was kind of long relief, spot start if they needed it, and just couldn't consistently get outs enough to be relied upon in a consistent role other than to just get them innings when they needed. Where now, I mean, if he keeps building on this, this is a guy that could be a, a five starter for you. And I think to as a tertiary piece in a deal where, as you mentioned, like there's two really strong pieces coming back, headlining it. I think this was a great, buy low opportunity to just add another arm to the fold for the Astros, who could definitely use one with some of the health issues they've had with some of their guys and impending free agents as well. So I'm the one challenge for him is going to be keeping the ball in the yard. But as you mentioned, if he's not walking guys, you can get away with solo shots are not the end of the world, and it's not like he's given up a ton of hard contact. It's the solo shots and stuff like that, but only three doubles otherwise as well. So I think he looks like a guy that could absolutely grab that five spot in the rotation for them. And that is a surprise after, what we saw last year.
Let's go over to the Texas Rangers. Tyler Mahle has to be the answer here.
Yeah.
Even though secretly my answer is Josh Smith. He's got a 200 WRC plus again, arm. I can't believe it. Like, I know he did it, in the first half last year, and he was awesome, and I didn't buy it then, and then he kind of slowed down a little bit. There was an element of me where I was having fun watching him, and I certainly praised him on the show. But moving forward, I was like, he's probably just going to be the kind of utility man that comes off the bench who had a really good first half. But then he said, fuck you, Peter. I'm just going to keep hitting. So for me, that's a surprise. But I think the answer to this question has to be Tyler Mahle, because Tyler Mahle leads Major League Baseball in ERA at 0.68. I mean, Tyler Mahle in 2024 made 3 starts, 4.97. In 2023, he made 5 starts, 25 innings, 3.16 ERA. And then you look at his past, he's been a great pitcher before, but unfortunately has not been able to stay on the field. But even to this, he's now on the field, and he's the best pitcher in baseball by ERA. That has to be the answer for most surprising. But to me, secretly, it's still Josh H. Smith.
It's Tyler Mahle though.
Yeah.
I hear you, but dude, like we were saying, like, oh, like whatever you get from Mahle this year, like whatever. I agree though. Like after the second half from Smith, like I would not have expected him to just let me run it back on the first half last year again and just be insane. But Mally's a health guy too, right? Like it's we're guilty of it. Everybody in baseball is guilty of it. Front offices are guilty of it. It's a what have you done for me lately? Sport, and sports are in general, but baseball especially. And like we forget that Tyler Mahle was at one point a really good pitcher and commanded quite a sizable return when he was traded to the Twins from the Reds. But it just was kind of so long ago that, and the more he was hurt, it just felt more removed from that. He's dotting that splitter right now, and that's been a huge part of it for him. He's got that cutter going as well. Opponents are hitting 112. They have a 375 OPS against him. Like that's the other side of it too, is like he may not be striking out the world, but nobody is barreling this guy. It's been really amazing to see, and a huge part of why I'm buying into the Rangers more and more.
Let's go over to the Mariners. This guy, he put up a 740 OPS in the second half of last year compared to a 567 OPS. So you think to yourself, all right, this player hopefully can parlay that into a solid season. But I didn't expect Jorge Polanco to put up an OPS near 1,000 to start the season. He's got 4 home runs. He's got a steal. He's hitting 340 with a 589 slug. At 31 years old, I wasn't thinking to myself, all right, Jorge Polanco is going to get off to one of the hottest starts in Major League Baseball for a lineup that desperately needs it. Now, the Mariners lineup has actually been perfectly fine. It's not been great, but it's not been bad either. And I think a big reason why is Jorge Polanco sitting right in the middle of it and just crushing baseballs right now.
He hasn't swung and missed at a 4-seamer in the zone yet this year, which it's a 46 pitch sample. I think 20 swings at pitches in the zone, but that is kind of a crazy stat because that was not something that was a strength for him in the past. When they eventually, like the Mariners were like canvassing and we thought maybe they'd make an upgrade to their infield, and then they end up just kind of just going back to bringing back Polanco. The one silver lining I had, like hope I had, was maybe the second year hitting in Seattle will be a little bit easier for him. And it seems like it is. It seems like he's seeing the ball better. I hope he can keep building on this because this is another player that has been very good in the past. But when you're seeing him just not punch out and make more contact in the zone and get into this power, like it's only 15 games, but man, I'm hoping he can build on it because it's definitely been a surprise for me because I think last year it wouldn't have been as much of a surprise. It was like, oh, here's a good buy low, like bounce back candidate. He doesn't bounce back. Now you feel further removed from him being good. This definitely is a surprise after he hit 217 last year.
And arguably the biggest surprise in the American League is on the Angels. Kyron Paris. I mean, we've talked about this guy before, and he is just, he has slowed down a little bit, but he slowed down to a 965 OPS this season while slugging 600, and he's got 5 home runs and 5 steals. And it was so funny. You were definitely vindicated because you kind of guessed based on the swing change that you were like, I bet he was working with Teacher Man this offseason because it looks like the type of swing that Teacher Man, promotes. And what happens? Kyron Paris has an interview, I think, on MLB Network.
Yeah.
It was MLB Network. And he goes, I've been working with Richard Pratt, or is it Platt?
Richard, like Shank?
Oh, I just got
Shank, Richard Shank.
So I just got the entire last name completely wrong. Yes, his name is Richard, goes by Teacher Man on social media, famous for being Aaron Judge's hitting coach and also Kerry Carpenter working with plenty of major leaguers. And Kyron Paris is now launching baseballs into the sun. And he's a dynamic athlete. He's only 23 years old. Like, who knows if it lasts? I don't know. But it's exciting to see a dynamic athlete like this, show his true potential, even if it's only in 64 plate appearances. I want to see more.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a guy that can maybe be that like 3 true outcome, second baseman who can move around a little bit too. They've plugged him in at center. So definitely proving that he can be this utility piece. Like we talked about him last time and this was a guy that was struggling in Double-A, like really struggling, and now is succeeding in the bigs. The challenge with that swing adjustment is for certain guys, especially like it can result in a lot more whiff and guys can struggle to maybe adjust at times. But for other guys, it can, especially if you're a freaky athlete, it can unlock even more. And I think we're seeing that. But just a reminder, like Kyron Paris last year, he had a 57 WRC plus in AAA. Like he hit 209 in the PCL in 37 games. So, I mean, it's shocking to see him make this leap. Yes, he's striking out a lot, but even if he plateaus and slows down, this is clearly a guy that can take the short end of the platoon, move around the infield, outfield, and be a solid piece for you. That's a great development from a guy that was struggling in Double and AAA.
Last but certainly not least, the No City Designation Athletics, Tyler Soderstrom is my answer. Now, similarly to Ben Rice, you, Jack, and I, we all said, as long as Tyler Soderstrom is getting everyday reps, we think he's going to be a good hitter. I don't think any of us thought he was going to be a 950 OPS guy out of the gate and be the league leader in home runs to start the season. Right, in 2024, he had 213 plate appearances. He had 9 home runs. Now he has 99 plate appearances and 9 home runs. The swing is so smooth, and he just pillages baseballs. And it's so funny, Nick Kurtz is coming up now, and how are the A's going to operate getting all of these guys in the lineup when a lot of them play similar positions? But it's a great problem to have.
Oh,
and with Soderstrom, I mean, the swing is just...
It's real nice.
It's nearly perfect. I love his swing.
He's only 23, and there's a guy that I think a little bit of prospect fatigue, former first-round pick. In 2023, I picked him as my minor league hitter of the year, like prediction ahead of the season on the call-up, and didn't quite put that together, but you still saw that power really start to shine through. And I think now that he's not worried about catching nearly as much, it's really allowed him to just focus on mashing, and he's done that. The approach getting better was a huge wrinkle for him. He was historically aggressive and, has cut that down a lot this year. He's on time for the fastball. He's not missing them. and he's much more adjustable to the secondary stuff, it's always going to bode well. So I'm really excited about him. I have a bunch of Tower Soderstrom like cards I've been sitting on for like 2 years, so that part of it is actually exciting too. But this is a player that I mean has always had the power potential and a good feel to hit for how much power he has, and the approach was kind of the last thing missing there, and he's found it, and it's been really fun to watch because you can really see this core here, and he'll probably be the next guy that if he keeps doing this a little bit longer. I know it's not as much of a position of need, but I think the A's are going to keep doing this like pre-arbitration extension thing for a lot of these guys to solidify that core, especially as they get ready to potentially move to Vegas or wherever it may be, and to show the league that they're spending a little bit more. Soderstrom's another great candidate for a pre-arb extension.
So before we move on to the National League, we'll get into Aram's list. A quick break.
All right, we'll start with the Mets, and it's going to be a pitcher if we're talking about the Mets side of things, and surprise there. It's got to be Griffin Canning. We talked about it though, and when I was trying to sell you a little bit on the Mets like pitching staff, it did also just become a conversation like you're trying to sell Griffin Canning to me, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, but like it's more of just I didn't see anything with Canning. I'm not going to pretend I just like I'm going to do the lazy, I trust David Stern's analysis here. And like that guy can put together a pitching staff that on paper looks whatever and always overperforms. And that's what they're getting here with Canning so far. I think he's got to be the biggest surprise for me on this team. And when you look at what he's done this year, 5 starts, he's at a 3.12 ERA. And it's pretty much just been a quality outing every single time he's out there. 23% strikeout rate, a 3.38 FIP. And he's done a pretty good job of just basically giving them a shot to win every single time. His worst outing was in Sacramento facing the A's, where he gave up 4 earned runs, where the ball clearly flies out there. But every single other outing has been 2 earned runs or less. And really, it was only 1 other with 2 earned run and then 3 others with 1 earned run. So he's just been really consistently solid. And remember, this is a guy that the Braves were just kind of like, hey, we don't need you. They dropped him, and after acquiring him like a salary dump, and now here he is at the division rival succeeding. They could probably use a Griffin Canning.
It's funny too because in 2024 and basically most of his career, the fastball has been the lead pitch, right? But this year it's the slider. The slider is up about, what is that, 11%? It went from 24.1% in 2024 to 35.7%. And he's keeping the ball on the ground at an elite rate, and he's keeping the ball off the middle part of that barrel. 84th percentile in ground ball rate. Again, limiting the hard contact, just keeping the ball on the ground, and with a decently respectable strikeout rate, even if the walk rate is a little bit higher, it's a recipe for success. Soft contact, keep the ball on the ground, and just keep your team in the game because the offense is going to come to play. The bullpen has been awesome, and that's what Griffin Canning's job is.
Yep.
5 innings, 2 runs. Get us through it. How do we do it? Keep the ball on the ground, make a little pitch usage tweak, and we're there. And it's funny, though, that it's just like this guy was with the Angels. You're right with the Braves. And then David Stearns is like, I see something. Bang. Yep. And he's already off to a great start.
And he's given up 2 home runs. That's it. And one was a Crawford box shot from Jeremy Pena, and the other was a Yordan Alvarez homer. So other than that, done a really good job of keeping the ball in the yard. And that's all he needs to do. If he's a low 4s guy, they're in a good spot, and he's been much better than that so far. Another guy that if he's a low 4s guy, I think you are over the moon if you are the Phillies, is Taijuan Walker. And I know that he hasn't been great, but he's been pretty good. And I think that's a surprise in itself. And I don't mean to pile on the guy. And, he's had really good years in the past, but let's be honest, this is another guy that I was wondering if he was even worth the roster spot for a team like the Phillies, where you're trying to win the World Series. Every single roster spot matters. Thought maybe he could be mop-up duty or whatever it may be, but he's been better than that. He had 1 bad outing against the Giants where it was 5 innings of 4 earned. He gave up 2 homers. But other than that, 4 starts so far this year. He's thrown to a 2.29 ERA. Look, the underlying isn't great. If he is a 4 ERA guy, mid-4s, but he's able to get through 5 innings when you need him to, you're happy with that because that's all you really want him for when your rotation's healthy. He's a long man, and that's it. When he's starting, it's just because you need someone to eat the innings without giving you an automatic loss. And last year, it felt like every single time he started, yeah, he might be able to get you some innings, but you're going to be losing by 5 by the time he gets through 4. So that part has been really surprising. I don't know if there's any huge tangible shift other than maybe just adjusting the pitch usage a little bit, locating a little bit more, and kitchen sinking it a little bit more. But I think that cutter has been a little bit more of an asset to him as well.
And he's throwing the splitter for strikes, right? And it's produced a launch angle of -6. So it's
Yeah.
keeping the ball on the ground too. When your lead pitch is keeping the ball on the ground, generally you're going to be set up for success. And you said it yourself, the kitchen sink approach. He's throwing like 7 different pitches, and he's throwing them for strikes, right? Sometimes with Taiwan Walker, you watch a start, and it's like, hey, you got 6 pitches, you're throwing none of them for strikes.
Hmm.
Like none of them are working. Now he's throwing them for strikes, and he doesn't have good stuff. But as long as he's in the zone and you can't really know what's coming, some of the pitches can get up on you. And with this splitter working like that, kind of setting up everything else, because in the back of your mind, you know that something that looks like a fastball is about to drop off the table. You got to, maybe that cutter will get up on you. It looks like the splitter or the four seam he's able to use a little bit better, or any of his breaking balls. So, do I think this is going to continue? Quite honestly, I'll be shocked. But that's
Yeah.
why he's a great answer to this question, because I'm shocked
Yeah.
he's doing it at all.
It is shocking. The one that I'm not as shocked at, but there's no better option to pick on his team is Spencer Schwellenbach of the Braves. Like, he was one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball in the second half, and then I think really showed how good he is at the very end against the Mets, where it was back-to-back starts of just dominance there in the end of September. But you're also seeing a guy here that we didn't rank in the top 15 pitchers in Major League Baseball on our preseason rankings, and who I think if you resurveyed us now, even just after a handful of starts, he's probably right there because he can legitimately spot it wherever he wants. And yeah, he had one bad start in Toronto, and that's really it. But other than that, I mean, he has been dominant pretty much every single time out there. A 2.56 ERA in 5 starts, 31 and 2/3 innings. He's walked only 5. He struck out 27. He's not going to have the craziest strikeout numbers in the world, but he doesn't walk anybody. He avoids barrels and he hits his spots. And when he's dialed in, though, he will rack them up. And he struck out 10 Marlins over 8 innings, earlier this month. I don't think it's surprising at all. It's a guy that we're very excited about and a guy that we thought could have potentially frontline upside. But when you look at the entire Braves team, there really isn't a positive surprise. And Schwellenbach, I think, unless you are a diehard Braves fan who, I know some Braves fans out there that were telling me, Dylan Short, one of them, who was telling me like Schwellenbach is going to be our ace. Totally get it. But I think relatively speaking, still probably a bit of a surprise compared to anybody else on this Braves team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the entire Braves team, like who would be the surprise, right? It's almost impossible to pick one. So we went with Schwellenbach because, again, to Aram's point, we thought he'd be great. We didn't think he'd be one of the 5 best pitchers in the National League.
Yeah.
And with Schwellenbach, when you watch him, you don't see dominant stuff, right? When you watch Strider, that is dominant stuff. But Schwellenbach, the command with good stuff, can make you an excellent pitcher. I mean, plenty of guys, in Major League Baseball have good command, average stuff, and they're ended up being pretty solid pitchers. And when you have above average stuff with elite command, those guys can take massive steps, right? A guy who he kind of reminds me of in that sort of sense is a George Kirby, but I actually think this stuff might be a little bit better than George Kirby. And also, I know this might sound sacrilegious, I think he has better command of the zone than George Kirby does. George Kirby might throw more strikes, but I feel like where the glove is set up, Schwellenbach is hitting right where Sean Murphy or Drake Baldwin or whoever is catching for the Braves more than a guy like George Kirby. Mariners fans might be up in arms and say that I'm crazy, but what I'm saying is from watching the both of them, I think Schwellenbach is actually hitting the glove right where the guy is more often than George Kirby is. Do you think that's a crazy take?
No, 'cause I was saying a couple weeks ago that I think Schwellenbach has a chance to, really solidify himself as maybe the best command guy in baseball. I think it's Kirby's title to lose, but there's a reason why Kirby has given up a fair amount of home runs, gave up 22 last year. Sometimes it's going to miss over the middle. I just don't think you see Schwellenbach miss over the middle very often at
Yeah.
all. And then beyond that, I think you look at the way he's commanding the entire arsenal.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable. So I don't think it's far off at all. And once we have a healthy Kirby, it'll be cool to see and compare and watch these guys kind of duke it out. But Schwellenbach, remember, also is barely thrown relative to a lot of other pitchers. So I think it's only going to get better and better for him.
Shortstop in college.
Yep.
That fact still just makes me smile because I mean, it just The fact that a scout found him too and then was like, "Hey, you want to pitch?" and then he just finds it this early. It's incredible.
It's been fun to watch, and I mean the Braves are really good at identifying arms. I think it's one of the more underrated things that they do. The Marlins, that's maybe been the one thing that you can praise them for over the years, no matter what regime it is. And the problem though was with Max Meyer, he battled some issues when recovering from Tommy John, but I don't think that is the reason why he has been outrageous this year. It's of course helps to be further removed from Tommy John, but I genuinely think it's the adjusted pitch mix and the way that he's going about his business because he has been outrageous. And he's coming off of a start where he pitched 6 shutty against the Reds and struck out 14. But you have 30 innings this year of a 2.10 ERA, 34% strikeout rate, and a 6% walk rate. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is the overhauled arsenal. The slider has always been an elite pitch and like one of the best sliders in minor league baseball and immediately one of the better sliders in Major League Baseball. But there was such a heavy reliance on it before. And it was also a situation where the fastball shape wasn't great either. So it's kind of a flat fastball and a slider that he's throwing as much as his fastball and a changeup that hitters didn't have to respect too much. Now you've got a fastball that's a tick harder with an inch more of carry. And then he's also throwing a two-seamer off of that, which just gives him another look. And then that slider is still that slider, but he mixes in a sweeper as well. And the changeup is better. So you have improved pitches, you have added pitches, and then you still have that patented slider. And that's how Max Meyer has now really turned himself into a very complete pitcher. Another guy that was a two-way player in college, premium athlete on the mound. And we're seeing him fill up the zone at a crazy clip.
You're underselling him. And the reason I say that is he said he has one of the best sliders in the minor leagues, and it's been one of the best pitches in Major League Baseball. It is the best pitch in Major League Baseball. By run value, 7 run value already on that slider. Opponents are hitting 103 against it. The only one that compares by run value, Hunter Brown's 4-seam fastball,
Wow.
both at 7 so far. That's how good that slider has been. Diabolical 14 punch outs. Hashtag make it Miami, Arm.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun outing to watch too. And Jack was Jack loves a good start.
Yeah.
So just hearing Jack get all excited and giddy about it was pretty funny, but it was really impressive to see. Mitchell Parker, Washington Nationals. It's another guy that like is I don't know if I'm fully buying that he's like breaking out completely, but I also think there's a method to the madness here where he's out pitching the peripherals and he might just continue to do that to a degree. He is filling up the zone with 4 pitches. 4 different pitches with a strike rate of 65% or more, and overall strike rate of 66%. From a lefty, that's going to play really, really well. And he may not be a guy that's going to strike out the world. He hasn't so far this year, but he hasn't really needed to because he's not going to walk anybody. And he's been able to keep the ball in the yard. He's only allowed 1 home run. So on the way to that, 5 starts, a 1.39 ERA, 32 and a thirds innings, 20 strikeouts. The peripheral numbers aren't going to be great because it's 20 strikeouts against 11 walks. But when you only give up 1 home run and you only give up 3 extra base hits, and you're for the most part keeping the walks in check and filling up the zone, I'm definitely buying that Mitchell Parker took another step forward this year and is a reliable back end of the rotation and maybe strong 4 starter option for them. Is he going to be a low twos guy or a sub 2 guy like he's been? Probably not. But he is coming off of a start where he just went 8 innings of one hit ball against a very good Orioles offense. And I mean, he probably could have gone for the complete game there. And he only struck out 4. He doesn't need to strike you out to turn lineups over and go deep into games.
And you look at the stuff, and even when you watch him and you see like a 92, 93 mile an hour fastball, and you see it like blowing by guys, and you're like, what? Well, it's got 19 inches of induced vertical break, so it has a little bit of giddy up on that fastball as well. But that's not really the main point of what I'm talking about here. What's been the most impressive part about Mitchell Parker for me is the confidence in the zone with potentially average to even sometimes below average stuff. He doesn't care. He's going after you, right? To your point about filling up the zone, right? He has confidence in that 4-seamer. It is only 93 miles an hour, but he's throwing it 50% of the time, challenging hitters with it, throwing it in the zone consistently, and then that split just comes right off it with a curveball and a slider. So I guess when I watch Mitchell Parker, I am just constantly surprised about how confident he is in attacking the zone. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's been the most impressive part of Mitchell Parker's start so far.
And probably a big key to the success is just like saying, hey, you don't need to nibble. Like,
Yeah.
trust it. And sometimes big league hitters are going to beat you. It is what it is. But I think that's allowed him to go deep into outings too, where he hasn't eclipsed 100 pitches yet this year, but he has not gone less than 6 innings. It's 6 1/3, 6, 6, 6, and 8. So he's also protecting the bullpen too by filling up the zone and being confident with it. It's allowing him to go deep into games and be, efficient pitch count wise. Carson Kelly for the Cubs. He cycled this year, so that's obviously a big part of why he has been so productive. But through 13 games, 371, 540, 971 slash line. That's a 282 WRC plus and a 1.3 F4. His career high in F4 is 2.3. That was in 2019 with the Diamondbacks. This is also a guy that hit 9 home runs in 91 games last year and has 6 in 13 games this year. He hit 7 home runs in 104 games in 2022, and he hit 2 home runs in 52 games in 2023. So this is just a ridiculous power surge from him. He's always been a solid defender, but we haven't seen him hit more than 15 home runs since 2019. And he might get there before the All-Star break this year, maybe even earlier than that if he keeps it going. So the mere fact that he hit for the cycle, like just another one of those like most improbable cycle candidates. No one will ever top Benji Molina, but I mean, very improbable here. And just seeing him slug the way that he is, I don't think it's going to continue. But I mean, this is a really exciting development for a Cubs team that has been looking for a catcher for a while.
You don't think Carson Kelly's going to put up a 1,500 OPS this season when hitting close to 400?
I think he normalizes to 1,200.
Okay, that's I think the most surprising part of the Cubs is just their entire catching position. Like, yes, Carson Kelly is the answer to this question, absolutely, but I think I could throw Miguel Amaya in there, right? Yeah. He's slashing 278, 298, 500 for a 798 OPS. He had that huge home run against the Dodgers just last night. I mean, the Cubs have been the most fun team to watch in baseball, period. Like, the Padres are off to an awesome start. The Dodgers are, of course, incredible. My favorite team is the Yankees. That's all great. I watch every Cubs game every night these days. I mean, it is... I think I saw a tweet where it's like this Cubs team is like a drunk driver with no seatbelt on. I forget who tweeted that out. I saw that on Twitter. It was going really viral. I thought that was hilarious because it is just pure offense and it's pure go, go, go. And everybody in the lineup is hitting. And I said the Cubs, their offense is unstoppable if the bottom of the lineup is hitting. We know the top guys are going to hit all year, but can PCA string together good ABs? Can the catching position be any good? Carson Kelly's got a 1,500 OPS and Miguel Amaya's got an 800 OPS. Like, if you
PCA has been one of the best hitters in baseball.
Exactly. So to have that level of production from the bottom of the lineup is enormous. And you're right, Carson Kelly is the answer. But I wanted to show Miguel Amaya a little bit of love too, because he's a guy who was like, they signed Carson Kelly because of Miguel Amaya, you know? Yeah. So the fact that they're both playing well is huge.
And then I think it's not shocking because he's a top 15 prospect for us, but you've got Pete Crow Armstrong hitting 313, 358, 588 over his last 20 games. And I mean, he has been as impressive as just about anybody in Major League Baseball over the last couple weeks. So it is a surprise to a degree just because it's just such a leap from where he was at points, even at points in like spring training. So that part is exciting, but he has all the talent in the world. So I'd say Carson Kelly and his cycle probably take the cake there. The Brewers, Chad Patrick's got to be the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he was good last year in AAA. Like I would watch every time I checked in on the AAA leaders. Like he was eating innings. He was reliably consistent. But there was a reason why the Brewers didn't bring him up to the major leagues, despite the fact that he pitched the entirety of last year in AAA. Like he threw the entire season, 26 starts in AAA last year at a 2.90 ERA. And the Brewers like, it's okay. We don't need you right now, man. So in a more dire situation this year, they needed him, and he has been excellent. And I think even the Brewers are probably a little surprised at how the subdued stuff has translated at the big league level. Another guy that I don't know if it's going to consistently translate at the big league level, but you're going to take what you get now and feel really good about it because he's helping you get through the turns of the rotation. And a 2.11 ERA in 5 starts. He struck out 20 and 21 in the third innings, 9 walks. But I mean, overall, he's just been able to dance around jams, get guys out, and he's coming off of his best start of the year, which is the more encouraging part of it. 6 innings of 2-run ball, no walks, 7 Ks against the A's.
Don't you like with guys like this? Shouldn't that start against the A's been kind of the one where he blows up? That's at least where my mind was, where you put together a couple of good starts. Now you're going up against a hot offense who is pretty good against fastballs, right? Chad Patrick is cutter, four seamer, sinker. It's a lot of different variations of fastballs at you. That's the start that he runs into trouble. Nope. I mean, he did scatter 7 hits, but he also struck out 7 on top of it. So I thought that was probably huge for his confidence moving forward. I think it was probably huge for the Brewers' confidence in him moving forward. Now, there are a couple of concerning things. 29% ground ball rate, not ideal. 10% walk rate, not ideal. But it does seem like he's keeping these guys off balance where they can't pick up whether it's a four seamer, a cutter, or a sinker. And that's why I always keep going back to Lance Lynn, because that's who he reminds me of, where I always felt that Lance Lynn did such a good job of just keeping the ball off the middle of the barrel, working through innings. He was never going to shock anybody. At times in Lynn's career, right, he could put up 7 strikeouts. He could put up 10 punchouts. He'll have those outings when everything is working perfectly. But even when things aren't working perfectly, it's hard to really destroy him until the later parts of Lance Lynn's career where it got bad sometimes. But I'm talking about the prime of Lance Lynn's career. So will Chad Patrick have that path to success? I have no idea. All I'm saying is it kind of reminds me of the early years of Lance Lynn.
It's been nice to see him get an opportunity too, because sometimes those guys just get stuck in AAA, and he finished the year so well last year that I think he really earned that opportunity. And we'll see. I mean, they need innings right now, and it's a guy that's given them to him. And I thought maybe the D-backs outing would be one where he would blow up as well. And it wasn't great, but at Arizona, a guy that has a little bit more success against righties and lefties, and even then, like not a great start, but he goes 4 1/3 and doesn't give up a run. Like with the Brewers bullpen, you take that against elite offenses, and you gave them a chance to win that game. And they almost did. If they didn't give up 5 runs in the ninth, they would have. So that's a situation there where I think you have to be happy with what you're getting from Chad Patrick. Andrew Abbott of the Reds. This is a smaller sample here. The Reds were a difficult one. I thought about talking about maybe Gavin Lux, but everyone and their moms knows about his second half last year. It's all we heard about after the trade. And the Reds gave up a fair amount to get him. So I don't think that was necessarily as shocking. Abbott is a good arm and a guy that I think is reliable at this point. But the 2 starts that we've seen from him this year are just fantastic. And I just think to see him strike out 11 Orioles on the road, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run. It was on a solo shot, 1 walk, 11 Ks. And through his first 2 starts this year, a little bit of a late start because of injury, he's combined for 16 strikeouts in 11 innings and a 1.64 ERA. I mean, that is really, really encouraging. The changeup has been one of the best changeups that we've seen in Major League Baseball this year. Again, very small sample. But I would just say Andrew Abbott punching out 11, a career high, is probably a surprise. But there just wasn't a clear-cut, like definitive surprise here with the Reds.
Yeah, this one was tough. Pitch usage tweak for Andrew Abbott a little bit. And to your point about that changeup, it has been awesome. And he's throwing it way more than he did last year. He's out the usage on it about 10%. And the curveball usage, has gone up a little bit, but the sweeper and the cutter, he's kind of just thrown it out. Now it is just through 2 starts, so it'll be interesting to see if that's more of his recipe for success this year. I also want to shout out, someone tagged me on Twitter. His username is @RedsPlease. @PeterApple23, can we get some love for backup catcher, or the best backup catcher in baseball, Austin Wins? His numbers are insane. He's slashing 500, 536, 885 for a 1400 OPS. It is through 26 ABs. And in 2024, he had 19 ABs. He put up a 979 OPS. So this guy, you get him there for like 20 ABs, he'll be the best catcher you've ever seen in your life.
We need to do the Royce Lewis thing where we extrapolate over 162 with him every time.
Austin Woods is just Royce Lewis with worse PR.
Yes. What's funny?
Could that be a quote card? Austin Wins is Royce Lewis with worse PR. People are going to comment, I'm never watching this show
Never,
again.
yeah,
You
yeah,
guys are just quote farming like the
yeah.
20-incher.
Which
Yes, we were quote farming. Sue me. I thought it was funny. Aram thought it was funny. We were quote farming. That'd be a quote farming. We might have to include
so here's the funny part. He has 10 hits this year.
that.
6 of them came in one game.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And weren't two of them off position players?
yes. Yeah. I think including the homer, but
Hey, you can only play who's in front of you.
I agree. And
Yeah.
if he's in a spot where he keeps getting position players facing him, maybe that's because he's so good that
Maybe he's
they're
developing
blowing
and
teams out. Yeah.
maybe he's hitting a new prime at 34.
I'm rooting for wins, but
It sounds like we're making fun of him, but we're kind of not. Like he
no,
he does have a 1400 OPS. Like that is awesome, but it
that
is
is awesome.
hilarious that he's hitting 500 and that he also put up an OPS near 1019 plate appearances the year before.
Hope it continues. I know the backup catcher role has been a frustrating one at points for Reds fans, but
They got three.
now
Steven,
they got three.
Trevino, and Austin Wins. Is that the best catcher grouping in Major League Baseball? People are starting to say that.
Elite trio.
Yeah.
Cardinals, Matthew Liberatore.
Mm.
I thought he would transition maybe into an effective reliever, and we saw him kind of mostly used as a reliever last year, and it was mixed results. I didn't really envision him getting transitioned back into the rotation, especially with some of the upper minors arms that the Cardinals have, and succeeding the way that he has. Of course, this is a guy, former first round pick with the Rays, and has had plenty of prospect intrigue, but he's been fantastic this year. And the underlying numbers actually point towards him maybe even being unlucky. It's 4 starts at a 3.6 ERA, but a 1.95 FIP. He has had command issues in the past. Not this year so far. 2 walks and 24 strikeouts in those 25 innings. He also had trouble with the long ball at points. Only 1 home run allowed this year. So I think Libby doing what he is doing has been really encouraging. Definitely a guy you root for because the expectations were so high. Still only 25 years old. So clearly something clicked for him this year. And it's been nice to see him turn into this potentially reliable big league starter.
I'm buying this. I really am. And I think it's, there's a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason is the evolution of this slider. Like when you think about Matthew Liberatore, you think 4-seam at the top, big looping curveball, and then a couple other pitches. And the slider, like even a few years ago, the slider was his 5th most used pitch. 2023, 4th most used. 2024, then he starts to use it a little bit more, and now it's his most used pitch. Opponents are only hitting 233 against it. It's getting close to a 40% whiff rate, and he's always had a pretty good curveball, but now he's got a little bit of a sinker. He's got a changeup. He's got a cutter. He's got so many different pitches that he can throw at you, and the command has been impeccable. I mean, he's got a 2% walk rate. Now, is he going to walk only 2% of batters for the rest of the year? Of course not. But is he going to walk 5%, 6% with a strikeout rate in the mid-20s? We'll take that.
Yeah.
And I think a big reason why is this slider can generate a ton of whiffs, and it works better off his fastball than that big loopy curveball. And I think this guy, like again, this was a top prospect. This is a big-time arm. But again, with prospect fatigue, this happens when a guy's 23, 24, 22 years old, and you see him kind of fall flat on his face a lot of times, and you're like, I'm just done with him at this point. He's 25.
Yeah.
25 years old. I'm buying it with Matthew Liberatore.
I think he's a solid rotation piece potentially for them. Even if it's a number 4 starter, like you need those. And for a team that's getting younger, you could be a guy that ends up eating innings. And to the command point, 11% walk rate in 2023. And you're seeing that just completely cut down here at the big league level. And I agree that slider has really adjusted things and I think made his fastball better too, because it takes guys off of that. And that fastball was getting crushed at points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andrew Heaney's doing that thing where he's good again.
Yeah.
And yes, it's like, I'm not shocked because he just pops up and does this every few years. But once he signed the deal with the Pirates, I'm like, okay, this might be the last one here. Like this might be it for Andrew Heaney, especially after, some mixed results last year. He has been fantastic. He's been as good as anybody in that rotation, even Paul Skeens. Like he's got a 2.13 ERA in 4 starts, 2.84 FIP. 25 and a third innings. He's struck out only 22, but he's walked 6, and he's just dodging barrels. 191 opponent batting average. Nobody is hitting him hard. As a Yankees fan, the home run could be a bugaboo for him at points. 1 homer so far this year, and opponents are slugging less than 300 against him. I don't know if this fully continues. I kind of clown the signing, especially because of all the arms that they have, but man, he's actually been huge for them this year. Even with the velo down, like his fastball is down velocity wise, and he's actually been better this year. So it's been cool to see in his age 33, really 34 season.
Andrew Heaney was one of the worst pitchers I had ever seen on the Yankees. 35 innings, 13 home runs. 13.
Yeah, that's all time.
He's giving up a home run every 3 innings. It was bombs away. It was a home run derby. And then Dodgers get him. And you're like, what? What are you guys going to do with him? Then he pitched to a 3.10 ERA in 72 innings. And ever since then, dude, he's been pretty good. Like, you know what's so funny? I'm going to ask you a hilarious question right now. Andrew Heaney with Texas, 147 innings at a 4.15. Then the next year again with Texas, 160 innings at a 4.28. And then this year he's off to a 2.13 ERA. What's the difference between him and Mitch Keller over the past 3 seasons?
PR.
I told you it's
videos.
A couple more innings for Keller.
Yeah, some tread videos. Like it is crazy. Honest, pure just production standpoint.
Yeah,
not much, not much at all.
And that's more of my continued claim that Mitch Keller is overrated, and my continued claim that Andrew Heaney's kind of underrated. Like he's just a lefty that goes out there, gives you 5-6 innings every day, keeps the ball in the ballpark, and just performs. Right? He's not a guy who's going to no hit you. Probably give up 6 hits, but he's going to limit the runs, and he's going to do a job like the veteran that he is. He's a professional, and he's a good pitcher, kind of.
He is. I don't know if I was expecting it. You know, and he dropped the release even lower. It's like a 4.8 release too, which is pretty crazy. And I think it's just creating a difficult angle for hitters. So it's working, and looks like he could be a guy that eats innings for them this year, which you can always use, especially with some young arms.
Typical Arm, just being a casual, not believing in the Heen dog.
Yeah, I think I definitely thought the ship had sailed. The Padres this is maybe the easiest, by far the easiest, I think. Gavin fucking Sheets.
Yeah.
Like, what? 22 games, 323, 366, 523 slash line, an 890 OPS. He's striking out 24% of the time. Also, allergic to ground balls. And you know what? I don't care. Like, elevate and celebrate. 18% ground ball rate this year. He's hitting the ball hard. It is crazy how frequently he's hitting it in the air while actually not whiffing as well, because he's just selling out for the lift. He has been outrageously good for the Padres and a huge, huge, huge pickup for them after a guy that was not even seen as a piece on the worst team in Major League Baseball, like history, arguably. They're like, hey, we don't need you on this roster anymore. Well, worked out for Gavin Sheets.
I need White Sox fans to run to the comments about how shocked you are about Gavin Sheets. And it's got to be just the worst pain in the world to see a guy who was putting up hard hit rates as a slugger. Like, this guy is supposed to hit the baseball hard. 35% last year, 32% the year before, 36% hard hit rate. That is, right, if we look back at 2024, where did that rank for a slugger kind of his caliber? He was in the 22nd percentile in what he is supposed to do well.
Yeah.
White Sox fans, this season his hard hit rate is 59%. He is crushing baseballs. And who knows if it's going to continue, but if he could provide some power off the bench for a Padres team that doesn't really need him. I mean, they got a great lineup. Like, if Gavin Sheets is playing well, that is awesome for them. But if he starts to slide, they'll be totally fine. So this is just found change, right? It's like when you're in a car and, you know, your wallet might be empty, but you're at the drive-thru and you see a $5 bill between the seat. And you're like, fuck it, I got a $5 bill now. And then you pay for your food. Like, that's what Gavin Sheets is. But instead of a $5 bill, we're getting a $100 bill. We can leave the drive-thru and go to Ruth's Chris and go get a steak with Gavin Sheets right now.
Well, and they need him now because you don't know how long you're going to be missing Arias. It seems like not as long as they thought, which is great because that was scary. But we were talking about, like, how do you elongate this lineup a little bit? It's so top-heavy. Well, Gavin Sheets helps, but he's actually part of the top-heaviness now because he's batting in the 2-hole. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a guy that if everyone's healthy and everyone's back, not necessarily as needed, but if Tirso Ornelas struggles, Hayward doesn't come back, like Oscar Gonzalez struggles, like you've got a guy here that can plug in and be productive, and he's been one of their best hitters, and that is, I think, as big of a shock as any that we're going to talk about here.
I think so. Before you just move on real quick, is Kyron Paris more surprising to you or is Gavin Sheets more surprising to you?
I think Gavin Sheets, because Paris was at one point a good prospect, rushed to the big leagues. I think it jolted his development. Still younger. Sheets, I've seen struggle now for like years at the big league
That's
level. So
true.
it's like, well, what's going to change now at 29 when you leave the White Sox? Apparently everything.
Everything. Just get out of Chicago.
Tommy Edman for the Dodgers. Now, we've talked about it. I still, and not even a hindsight thing, I think it was weird that the Dodgers, or excuse me, that the Cardinals were just willing to move off of Edman. I understand he was a little bit redundant for them, but this is a guy that had a 5-win season in 2022 and then was very, very hurt. And dealing with that wrist issue that really delayed his return. But even in 2023, when he was a below average hitter, he was a 2.5-win player. Like it's a player that is very, very valuable. And you see if he can get anything close to above average offense, you're going to have a 4-5-1 player. But what I never envisioned was Tommy Edman potentially pacing Major League Baseball in home runs. And he's right off the pace right now with 8. So that's why, relatively speaking, he is the biggest surprise for me on this Dodgers team. You could go Jack Dreyer or whatever, but like, we knew Jack Dreyer was going to be a pretty good reliever, and he's been a really good reliever. It's a reliever, though. Like, we're seeing Tommy Edman potentially post a career high in home runs in his age 30 season by June. Like, he could reach his career high in homers by June, which is 13, by the way. 13. So that's got to be the most shocking thing to me is just this Tommy Edman power stroke that we're seeing.
So my favorite thing about Tommy Edman is personal. So when Tommy Edman was on the Cardinals, like you and I have always loved Tommy Edman. I love Tommy Edman because of his versatility, his ability to hit the ball the other way, and I always thought he put up good at bats. Even if the offense wasn't prolific, a 5-win season is kind of the guy I thought he was. He's going to be the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Like you hear the Ben Zobrist comparison all the time, and he really is the Ben Zobristy of Ben Zobrist. He's the most Ben Zobrist guy that we have. Right. And then, so I was ranking him kind of high on sometimes center field lists, utility lists, and my group chat full of Dodger fans was always making fun of me. Tommy Edman is so boring. There's no way Tommy Edman is
So
that as good as you
spoiled.
say. And then yesterday, I get a text asking, is Tommy Edman a top 25 player in all of baseball? That's the flip that they have done from Tommy Edman. And again, that is not all Dodger fans. That is just my group of friends from home. So I like seeing the progression of them going from who's this boring guy in St. Louis nobody cares about to I'm in love with Tommy Edman. He's the best player on our team. They said he's the 4th best player on the Dodgers. I mean, the
Tell
Dodgers
your
have a litany of elite players. 4th best, and they're right. He is the 4th best player on the Dodgers this season.
Please tell your friends they're spoiled.
They are so spoiled.
There.
They think they're going to spend $500 million on Gunner.
Oh God. Wilmer Flores. I, this dude, another guy that I just thought it was over. I love Wilmer. It is amazing some of the stretches that he's had. But I watched him last year look like a dead fish in the water. Like age 68 WRC plus, totally overmatched at points, just looks slow. And I guess he was banged up and he was hurt, but like I guess it was affecting him even when he was back. He's the biggest surprise for me for the Giants because I just didn't think he was gonna be able to bounce back at age 33. Another guy that I was like, is he even worth the roster spot at a certain point? Not only is he worth the roster spot, he's been clutch as hell. 247, 304, 494 slash line is good for a 122 WRC plus, but 7 home runs when your home ballpark is San Francisco, like when that is your home ballpark and you already have 7 bombs, this guy has been awesome. They're starting him in the DH spot pretty much every game. Like that's a premium slug position there, and he's premium slugging. So I know that he has done this for a long time, but for me, he's the biggest surprise on this team because you could talk about Jung Hoo Lee. I love Jung Hoo Lee, and I thought he was going to be a great player, and he made $100 million before he even came here. So that's not as much of a shock. I think it's got to be Flores. He's going to be 34 not that long from now.
So Wilmer Flores has 7 home runs. I think all 7 of them have been walk-offs. Every single time I watch a Giants game and we're in the 9th inning, Wilmer Flores is up to bat, and I'm like, he's going to do something great, and he has every single time I've watched, right? So I go to Fangraphs and I look at the clutch stat. So you can go to Fangraphs, then you go to the leaderboards, then you go to win probability. And right now, Kyle Tucker leads baseball in win probability added, and Wilmer Flores is second. And in terms of their clutch stat, Wilmer Flores is ninth in baseball. I think those are wrong. I think he should be number one in both of those categories. He's the clutchest guy in Major League Baseball right now. Even if it's not a home run that takes the lead, it's a base hit to walk them off. He he's got ice in his veins. He's like Dame Lillard if like Damian Lillard
was way more boring.
only made all the shots at the end of the game. Like
Yeah.
it's always in the best moments. I love Wilmer Flores.
He has 11 plate appearances in what would qualify as high leverage this year. He's hitting 300.
You know who Wilmer Flores is? He's Robert Ory.
Robert
That's
Ory.
that's a
Get him his
pull from
rings.
the NBA that he's Robert Ory right now. He makes the big shot. He gets the big hit.
High leverage, 3 for 10 with 2 home runs, 7 RBI though.
I think those numbers are wrong. I've seen
yeah, yeah, he's doing it every time.
Yeah, every time.
Dbacks is another one where it's like, I knew he was a good player. I think he's turning into a great player before our eyes. Geraldo Perdomo.
Yeah.
And he got the extension from the D-backs. And at first we're like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, it won't burn you. He's a solid player. I just was covering Marlins D-backs in Miami. And Perdomo was walking through taking BP. I think he's grown like a couple of inches. Like he's 6'3", and he's added strength. He's like 200 pounds now, maybe 205 pounds. So he's a lot more physical. He always was that glove first shortstop that you knew would just kind of slap the ball around the yard and be a solid piece for you. But now we're seeing him kind of blossom into a guy that can maybe tap into a little bit more power. Like he hit 6 home runs in 144 games in 2023. He hit 3 home runs in 98 games in 2024. He has 3 home runs through 23 games this year. And in that game that I watched, he absolutely dismantled one into the upper deck. So you're seeing him hit the ball harder. And also, he was a guy that used to be a little bit more aggressive. Lowest chase rate we've seen. He's cut his K rate to below 10%. So he's added power, and he's been the most disciplined and best bat to ball wise he's been in his entire career. He's a surprise for me just because I kind of thought he would always be what he is. And as he's 25 years old now, he looks like so much more.
This is why Mike Hazen is a top 5 general manager in baseball for me. I mean, this is not the main reason, but this is another one of the reasons I think that. This is a masterclass. To your point, I didn't think he was going to be any good. I thought he was just filling space for Jordan Lawler. I thought that's what he was. He was going to play good defense, right? He was an all-star. It was fun. And then the offense took a little bit of a dip. And we're thinking to ourselves, all right, he's way better than Kevin Newman at shortstop. So we should keep him there until Jordan Lawler's ready. Now, I'm in the headspace of, it doesn't matter if Jordan Lawler's ready. Geraldo Perdomo's the shortstop. And maybe
get ready to learn third base, buddy.
Exactly. Maybe Gino Suarez is going to be gone soon, and then he's learning third base because this is your shortstop. And again, that's obviously it's a testament to Perdomo and his improvements, but Hazen's sticking with this guy and saying, I know there's more in you. And it just shows each and every year the plate discipline is out of control for this guy. The walk rate is crazy. He never strikes out at all. In terms of a strikeout rate, he's in the 97th percentile, striking out less than 10% of the time, with a walk rate at 16.5%. He's walking more than he's striking out while playing great defense. This is a 25-year-old shortstop on a good pre-arb deal. We got to start showing Perdomo way more respect. And I'm not even talking to the audience or you. I'm really just talking to myself.
Yeah. No, and I mean, average exit velocity is up 2.5 miles per hour from last year. His hard hit rate is up 5% from last year. And if anything, he's been a little unlucky this year. Slugging percentage 425, X slug 463, WOBA 358, X WOBA 374. So that's another reason why he's just been a crazy surprise. The Rockies, this was almost impossible. I'm going with Mickey Moniak, I guess. Like, he has been pretty good for them. That's probably the best choice. Moniak is like a 111 WRC plus, which accounts for the park and park factor. So that is worth noting. So yes, he is playing his home games in Coors, but he's running to 3 homers. He's not striking out, which is nice. 19% K rate. 111 WRC plus is a pleasant surprise for a guy that I think was dropped from the Angels and had a 79 WRC plus last season. We'll see if it continues, but um, who else am I going to pick on this team, dude? Like, there's nobody else.
So here's why Mickey Moniak's going to win the National League MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's impossible. I mean, everybody else has been horrible. So
Like,
he's been pretty good.
let's play a game. Who would be the next best candidate?
It's not
Brenton
total.
Doyle is already good, and he's been their only good player this year.
I don't even know. Like, Dolander, I guess.
Like, and he's
Like,
he's still adjusting.
and wouldn't you say he's been worse than you thought?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of.
Like Kyle Freeland with a 4.85 and good peripherals.
Pretty good. That is huge.
Maybe that's it. I genuinely don't know who the answer would be
Has
for the
Victor
next
Vodnik been any good in that bullpen?
8 innings of a 4.5 ERA and he's hurt.
Okay.
Um, well, Zach Agnes, I actually really like him as a prospect though. One scoreless inning so far in his big league career.
0 ERA?
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty good.
But yeah, that's tough times in Colorado right now, where you literally can't even find one pleasant surprise. That's it though on the National League front.
All right, let's get to my last word. So we're going into Peter's history corner. Do you know how the teddy bear was invented? Like, do you know the story there?
No.
Think about the teddy bear. Like, how did that come to be? So, the invention of the teddy bear was when Teddy Roosevelt, back in the 1910s, 20s, whenever he was president, he thought it was unsportsmanlike to shoot a bear that had already been captured. So, think about that. He thought the bear had been captured. We're not going to shoot this bear. It's unsportsmanlike. And a political cartoon was made of that moment, and it went viral. The toy maker was inspired by this and ended up making a little plush bear and named it Teddy. And now it's the largest sold toy in the history of the world, the
Oh,
teddy
wow.
bear. And I thought that was a cool, nice little story.
That is cool. Good on Teddy Roosevelt playing the game the right way. You
Playing the
know,
game the right
yeah.
way.
Also shooting like how do you shoot a bear? Like but yeah, play the game the right way. You got to earn it. That is crazy. I actually never really thought about why it was ever called a teddy bear. Like it's one of those things you just accept and don't question at all. Like you just don't think about it.
That's why I thought it'd be a fun last word.
That is a good one.
I didn't really know it. I came across that fact and I was like, be cool. It'll be good for a last word. So hopefully
Peter's history corner.
Peter's History Corner. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. The best way to support is to rate and review Spotify and Apple Podcasts 5 stars or wherever you listen to your shows, as well as supporting on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. And of course, if you're interested in getting yourself some Just Baseball merch, I'm rocking my hat. You can go get yours in the episode description as well as plenty of new merch. The merch store looks phenomenal. I am asking YouTube comments below or DM us on Twitter or whatever. Let us know what you think about it. We put a lot of work into that merch store. We think it's awesome. There's so much good stuff there. Even if you don't buy anything, just let us know how you like it, right? We're always looking for new things to put in there, changes to some, restock some things that people really like. So just let us know. Again, whether that be through the DMs, through our Discord, or again, in the YouTube comments below. For Arm Layden, I'm Peter Apple. We will be back on Friday with a weekend preview and more. And with that, thank you, everybody.